Monday.
Yeah.
Happy Monday. That's not an oxymoron. You don't have to think Mondays are bad, right? Let me get quickly of the itinerary. I know you're kind of already getting started on your daily quiz, which is okay. I'll give you another minute. Reminder on the toy drive. Yes, you can bring them until Friday, but that would be out of the goodness of your heart and sharing with the kids. But if you are taking a partner test, you need them by Wednesday. I'll be right with you. Hello, it's Mrs. Bester. Okay, right away for her. Okay. Get her stuff. All right, thanks. Bye. Ellie Wilkes, you're the other one. So same, as soon as you get this done. Get your books. We had time first hour. We did not third hour, depending on the notes. We are checking the daily quizzes tomorrow. That seems weird because it's only Tuesday and we normally check them on Friday. But how weird would it be to check your daily quizzes after you took the test and you find out 2 days later that you did them wrong? So you have Fridays already started, today's, and tomorrow's. We'll have 3 daily quizzes already by tomorrow on week 15. So girls, you can make yours up online. Notes are on a handout so that you don't have to draw all these triangles and set up your proofs. Thank you. You guys aren't together, are you? No. Notes are at a handout, and then we'll get your assignment. If you did not get one of these because you were gone on Friday, your notebook packets are due on Wednesday with everything else.
Thank you.
You can rearrange and sit in the desk, please. We don't have enough wheelie chairs for everybody, which means nobody gets one, right? And I think that's it. So keep working on this. If I were you, I would draw this diagram so that you can trace the segments and actually find the included angle for side angle side. That's from your flipped notes when we flipped them last week. Question, Rachel? Yep. All right, you have a couple minutes left on this. I'll take an attendance while we listen to our music. Yeah. Put it in.
You know, like when to put like the 3 or just the 1 angle?
You see that L in the corner?
Yeah.
It's split down the middle, so you don't know if you want the little angle on the top, the little angle on the bottom, or the huge angle. So that one you have to be more specific. But the angle J, see the J up in the corner? There's only one angle up there. It's just the J. So that one's fine calling it angle J, but L and K are not okay by themselves. Fix that. Let's carry on with the daily quiz. You're not supposed to be getting help from each other, which means you probably aren't talking right now. If you're done, you can sit quietly so others aren't distracted by you.
Could we do footnotes more?
Not too much more. Not everybody has internet access, so they have to use their RTI. I'll try to do one once a unit, but that's about it.
It's just it's a lot easier.
It makes sense.
Because if I don't get something, I can just go back and watch it.
Mhm.
I just find it easier when I do that.
That's good to know. Maybe we could increase it a little bit, or maybe I could, like this, videotape what I do in class and just upload it online. We could do that, and then if you are absent or if you want to re-see the notes, they would just be there. Could work on that a little bit. You can put that away for class, Brett, or Cole, or do you want me to hold it? Really? Not boredom, just practice, and then I go back and look at it and see what I can help with, or my administrators can look at it if they want. Yeah. To work on Friday's assignment? Is that what you said? Okay. Okay. Morgan's here. Sure. Anybody put boots on yesterday and go play in the snow? Let's try this so not everybody talks at once. Raise your hand if you put boots on and went outside, but don't talk about it. Just raise your hand. Raise your hand if you put a hat on when you went outside. Raise your hand if you shoveled. Raise your hand if you skated. Anybody find some ice? We skated, yep. We got a rink. Go to the north end of Lake Redstone. Only on the side that has enough ice, yeah. One more coming at you. Anybody try to build a snowman? We don't have any more. What just happened? Does somebody have too many in their row? Really? No. I need somebody to figure out where the extra ones went. Maybe Allie took 2 and on. Well, yeah, why don't you go make 1? So that's everybody else, right?
What? So you just want more?
1 more on front and back. Thank you. Helps to have a secretary mom, huh? When are we grading these daily quizzes? Class, when are we grading these daily quizzes? Tomorrow. Tomorrow. Tuesday. One or the other. Not listening to the Nutcracker. All right. So you have a couple options. You're going to want to take out cheat sheet number 6. You're going to need them all because we have proofs on the back of your notes. You could probably get your cheat sheets out without sharing any thoughts with people next to you, can't you? If we work a little bit more on our transitions, we'll have a little bit more class time at the end of the hour. All right, on cheat sheet number 6, we have ASA and AAS. You should be familiar enough with the proofs so far and the postulates and statements. We already talked about side, side, side. We have side, angle, side. We have HL, which I get it, that only has 2 letters in it, but you still need 3 markings. You have to have 2 side markings and you have to have a right triangle. So technically that's 3 pieces as well. The 2 that we're adding today are angle, angle, side, and angle, side, angle. Both have 2 angles involved. This one has the included side, and you should be very familiar with that because that's what we did on our flip notes. It's what you just did on your daily quiz, except for that was the included angle. Now we have the included side. Angle, angle, side means that the side comes after the 2 angles. Mary, I think. While I've got you here on the bottom, corresponding parts of congruent triangles, that's if we were going to go an extra section in our chapter 4, and we geometry teachers decided once we proved congruent triangles, we should be done. We don't need to go on and beyond and past congruent triangles. So in cheat sheet 6, if you have that out, CPCTC at the bottom, we're not ever going to use that. Okay, notice I didn't put anything for angle, angle, side here. There's nothing really more to explain than you've already seen. If you want to draw this off to the side, you can't draw it on your cheat sheet, but if you want to draw it on your notes. When we talk about angle, side, angle, okay, if you have an angle and you trace that angle, and you have another angle marked, and you trace that angle, when you're using angle, side, angle, that S is the included angle between or the included side between the two angles. If you trace this angle and you trace that angle, you overlap that both times. It has to be in the middle. The angle side, however, is if you have an angle, another angle, and a side that follows it. Angle side. And some of you may look at that and say, well, how do you know which way to go? This is angle side. If you go this way, counterclockwise, it's side, angle. That's technically the same postulate. You just wrote it backwards. Write it in the order that you're given, angle, side, angle. All of our other ones are symmetrical, if you want to call it that mathematically. They're the same forward and backwards. What do you want to call that in English? Same forward and backwards. What is that called when the same word is forward as it is backwards? Starts with a P, ends with an palindrome. Palindrome. Good, Kaylin. Rest of you can catch on to that? A palindrome, a word that's the same spelled forward as it is backwards. Race car, that's my favorite palindrome. Race car. If you read it forward, it's race car. If you read it backwards, it's race car. Yeah. So anyway, let's back to the point. When you have angle, side, if you look at it backwards and have side, angle, it's the same postulate. Just please write it the proper way. That one has to go in that order. All right, so we'll start up here with our first diagram. We have a triangle. So far, we have an angle and a side. We just have to figure out, is there possibly a third side that we could find or another angle that we could find? We have two parts to the triangle. The only way you can prove congruent triangles is if you have three parts. See anything up there? If you see something, raise your hand. I want to know if you... Raise your right hand if you really know. Raise your left hand if you're not quite so sure, but you think you might know. Because I'm going to call on you if you're raising your right hand. Go ahead, Kurt. What do you see? Oh, hold on. Stop there. We only need three parts. You don't want to find more than three. Okay. Can anybody help me out with a little bit more specifics? He said G equals G. I don't know what to draw in there. I don't know where G and G are. Cole.
Angle FGJ is congruent to the angle HGE.
Okay. Are those two angles, Cole, part of our two triangles? The two triangles that are drawn, are they in those two triangles?
No.
Nope. So we need a little bit more help. We're all on the right track, but we need more specifics. Otherwise, we're confused. Go ahead, Shelby. Nope, that one's already marked. Those were given to us. Thank you. But if they're already marked, we don't need to come up with that for a reason. Rachel, you go for it. HGJ. Okay, Kurt was on the right track, and I think that's what he was talking about because he said vertical angles. But if you're doing this on an app design or a computer program or just logical reasoning or you're plugging in, or even if you're just trying to tell me on your test, I have no idea what you mean by angle G. When you make an X like that with a G in the middle of it, I've got an angle G here, I've got an angle G here, I have an angle G here, I have an angle G at the bottom, and if you count straight angles, we actually have 6 angle G's there. You have to be specific. Angle H, fine. It's all by itself. There's no other angles. J is by itself. F is by itself. E is by itself. But G, you've got one vertex that covers 6 different angles. So be more careful on that. So now we mark those, and we look at it, and we try to figure out, do we have angle side angle, or do we have angle side? Okay, be careful. When you are checking those postulates, you can only look at one triangle at a time. You have to cover up the other triangle, like completely ignore it. I have no idea what's happening to that other triangle. If you look only here, do we have angle side angle or angle side? Brett. Angle side. It's the blue one. Okay, good. Once you have a pair of congruent triangles, you need to make a congruent statement out of that. I'm going to erase this one because it wasn't true. You need to make a congruent statement up there. You can call the first triangle anything you want, as long as you use those 3 letters. Any combination of triangle EFG. There's 6 different options on that. But once you name the left triangle, you have to name the triangle over on the other side. Think about it for a moment. Don't let anybody else think of it for you. How would you line up angle E, angle F, and angle G and name it over here? Take about 15 seconds to think about it, because I'm going to draw your pencil. If you really are not sure, ask somebody next to you in case you get drawn. Double check. You're pretty quiet. Means you're pretty confident. Of course, I'm going to draw somebody who left, I would imagine. Haley's gone, Allie's gone, Ann is gone, and Sam is gone. All right, who's number 25? Joe? You got this.
Let's check this out. Triangle JHG.
Triangle JHG. He's telling me that angle J has to match with angle E. Oh, look, they have the same arc march. Then what'd you say? H. They're the 2 empty angles. And the G went with it. Good job, Joe. Let's give Joe a power clap. 1, 2, 3. It's pretty good. Somebody's a little quick on the draw over there. Okay, take a look at the second one. We'll move on. We've got a couple of triangles. They're overlapping each other, completely mushed together. Sometimes it helps to draw them separately. Just draw them with a space between them if you need to. They only gave us one piece of information. Segment NQ is congruent to segment MP. We've got to have 3 parts. And I know exactly what that looks like, but in geometry you can't go by looks on anything ever. So, ask yourself, is it a parallelogram? Is it a rhombus? Is it a square? Is it a rectangle? Is there anything that we know for sure is congruent on there? Raise your hand if you think you know one thing for sure is congruent. Bryson, what do you have?
Line NP.
You are half. Oh, good catch. Is congruent to segment NP. And who's got the reason for that? Trevor?
Reflexive property.
Reflexive property. So now we have 2 sides for sure. We've got 2 options. It's either going to be side angle side or side side side. Or, could be none. They could not be congruent. Do we have anything possible that we could prove? Brett? Cole? You get a gumball. That's the second time I did that to you.
Side.
Okay.
Like third angle.
There is a third angles theorem.
Plus,
Is there a third side theorem?
no.
No. Mary, you have any idea? You had your hand up? Or did you change your mind? They look like they're almost exactly the same size. They look like they're congruent. Why would they be congruent, Mary? Yeah, that doesn't automatically make them congruent, though. She said because they're between 2 congruent sides. If I have this pen and this pencil, and I put that together with the exact same size pencil and the exact same size pen, she says the angle's got to be congruent because they're between, I'll put it even the same direction, they're between 2 congruent sides. Well, I can make a big obtuse angle with these, and I can make an acute angle with these. Just because the sides are congruent does not make the angles congruent. Any other thoughts? Can we find a third congruent side? Could they be alternate interior angles? Could have been. If they told us these were parallel, but they didn't. So we're going to go with the whole idea that they are not congruent. We were able to find 2, but there was nothing with enough information to find our third side. It's kind of like multiple choice when they say none of the above, and you're like, oh, why did they give me that as an option? Like I thought I had it, and then I'm not sure if it's none of the above. It is none of the above. Contrary to the third one, look at the third diagram. We got parallel lines everywhere. Go down. Parallel lines going across horizontally, parallel lines going vertical. They didn't give us anything congruent, so we've got to find 3 congruent pieces to prove this triangles, but at least they gave us some parallel. Cheat sheet number 7, it's all about parallel. If two lines are parallel, then. 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 There's 4 different ones. Take a look at this diagram. Be ready again. All pencils are back in. Discuss with somebody else if you need to. We should be able to come up with 3 pairs of congruency here. And this time I'll tell you, yes, they are congruent. We're not going to have a none of the above. Number 20, you got one of them? Is that somebody who's gone? Oh, that's from a long time ago gone, Luke. Number 2, Isabel, you got anything?
Angle 1
Because of?
alternate.
Yep. And we're going to mark these this time. We're writing them down. Alternate interior angles. Sorry for the abbreviation. I'm okay with that in your notes. I'm just not happy with it in quizzes or tests. There's one. 28. Got another pair? That's Allie. Number 1. That's Haley. This pencil trick doesn't work when everybody doesn't come to class. 23. Rachel's here. What do you have, Rachel? Angle 2 is congruent to angle 3 because of alternate interior angles. I'm going to use ditto marks. I got English flying all over the place here. Ditto marks, so I don't have to write it twice. At least not in our notes. Quizzes and tests, yes, you will. We've got angle. Speaking of angle. Why don't we have an angle postulate if we have a side postulate? Anybody know why we can't just use that and find a third angle? McKenna?
Because, like, it could be bigger. Because it doesn't matter how long the sides are, the angle is still the same.
Yeah, how many degrees in every triangle in the world? 180. So, no matter what the size is, if you have congruent angles, and I can cheat and use there's a isosceles right triangle, meaning this is 45 degrees, that's 90, and that's 45 degrees. I could take that exact same triangle, clone it. Yes, those are congruent because they have the same size angles, but I could also make it bigger. It's still a 45, 45, 90, but there's no way that those are congruent. The 90 still fits, the 45 still fits. Those are not congruent triangles, so AAA does not prove congruency. Later on, we'll talk about proportionality and similarity. Those are similar triangles. This probably is twice as big as that, but otherwise you can't use AAA. So right now we have 2 angles. We have to have a side. Got to find a side somewhere for it to work. Number 30. That's on. How about number 3?
Segment
By? Perfect. Is congruent to segment WZ. Reflexive property. So we did prove them congruent. They are definitely, we have 2 sides and an angle. I mean 2 angles and a side. We've got 2 options, angle, side, angle, or angle, angle, side. And we need number 10, to decide which is it. Or do we have an angle, side, angle, or an angle, angle, side? Angle, side, angle. And again, hopefully, that wasn't just a lucky guess, and we'll look only at one triangle. You can only look at one corners of a triangle, this triangle. Here we have angle 1, we have a tick mark, and we have angle 3. You can't say angle, angle, side. You can't jump from one triangle to the other and get 2 angles and a side. You have to completely ignore one of them. All right, one lucky winner right now is going to come up and write the congruent statement here. The congruent statement, how would you say that triangle is congruent to that triangle? Write it down on your paper. Take a moment. Peek at somebody's if you're not feeling super confident. Or ask somebody before you get called up there. with proper markings. Are we ready? We'll stall with a drum roll. Drum roll. I'll check and make sure they're here. It's a single digit, 1 through 10, or 1 through 9. Also could be described as a snowman. 8. Or, do you know this joke? What did the 0 say to the 8? Nice belt. It's a little too tight. Nice belt. All right, Trevor. You know what? Trevor's tall. I'm going to move this up for him. We don't have to make him bend over. Should I get that out of there, or you got enough room? So far, so good. You're back.
Okay.
He can call that first triangle anything he wants, and he did. Yours does not have to be exactly the same. It could be any one of 6 different combinations. He chose to put a triangle WVZ congruent to triangle ZXW. Oh, that's a U. Triangle WUZ congruent to triangle ZXW. All in favor, say aye.
Oh, it's a triangle. Opposed? Nay.
All opposed, say I oppose.
I oppose myself.
You know that when you say all opposed, say nay? You're technically saying, no, I don't oppose, which really means you agree, right?
Yeah.
So it should be all in favor, say aye. All opposed, say aye. Yeah. How did he do with his letters? Are his letters in order?
Yep.
Yeah. That's a U, yeah. I won't grade you on penmanship. All right, let's flip it over. Oh, Trevor gets a power clap. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Joe, sit on your hands. Sit on your hands. Everybody else, power clap. 1, 2, 3. Thank you. Joe doesn't get to power clap. All right. You can unsit on your hands now, Simon says. I have the drawing for you, so you're going to mark it up. I have the givens already for you, so it saves some time to write it down. But look at the givens. If they tell you that it's going to be parallel, you are going to use the parallel lines in cheat sheet 7. If 2 lines are parallel. This is what I'm drilling into you. You got till Wednesday. Those of you that have caught on to proofs, it's like, oh, this is easy. I got it. We do the same thing every time. Those of you that have not caught on, you have until Wednesday to recognize if they tell you there are parallel lines, if parallel lines, then something parallel is going to happen. And because I let you use your cheat sheets, I'm the nicest teacher in the world. No sense in making you look something up or making you memorize something that you can look up. If parallel lines, then we are either going to have alternate interior, alternate exterior, corresponding, or consecutive interior angles congruent. It says so right there. And that was chapter 3. We were good at that in chapter 3 when you didn't have to put them in a proof. Who wants to give me a pair of congruent angles? Clara wants to. She said angle C is congruent to angle D. Does anybody else want to give me a different pair? Go ahead, Isabel. Yeah, your choice. You could use angle C congruent to angle D, or because of that fancy drawing diagram and you've got 2 different transversals, you could have used angle A and angle E. Reason for that? Everybody. Everybody ready? 1, 2, 3. Yes, you need a count, just like dancers. I'm going to start counting to 4, though. In alternate interior angles. If 2 lines are parallel, then alternate interior angles are congruent. Let's mark them right away so that we know exactly what we're looking for and what we're looking at. We have congruent angles, and because of step number 2, we already have a pair of congruent sides. We either need a 3rd angle or a third side or third part, either an angle or a side. We have options. Not all proofs are going to be the same anymore. I couldn't actually put an answer key up for this for you on the sideboard because you could do it 3 different ways. Let's do option number 1. Option number 1, if 2 lines are parallel, then angle C is congruent to angle D. But McKenna said, no, I want angle E to be congruent to angle A, it was. Angle E congruent to angle A. That would be one option, because then you have alternate interior angles again. When you do have more than one option, don't list all of them. Don't say, oh, I'll show her what I really know, and I'm going to mark everything congruent. You're showing me more that you're confused and you're not sure what you need and you have too much information. Okay? If you have enough information, 3 congruent parts of a pair of triangles, you are done. You've proven it. And the more information you put up there, the more confused I get, which means I think it's the more confused you are. So don't throw up extra information. If a side and 2 angles are congruent, then you have congruent triangles. Please mark it exactly as written in the proof. ABD is or triangle ABD is congruent to triangle EBC. And if you marked it carefully and you looked carefully on your diagram, well, move that over where it belongs. On your diagram, if you marked angle A congruent to angle E up there, do we have 2 angles in a side or an angle-side angle? Let me do this. AAS or ASA number 6? Angle, angle, side. Looking at one triangle, angle, angle, side. We're not going to go through the whole entire thing and rewrite it. What was my alternative option? Who's got that? An alternative option to it. Isaiah.
Angle ABD is congruent to angle CB.
By? By vertical angles. So if you would have chosen those pair of angles, calling them angle ABD and CBE, you could have used angle side angle, or you could have used angle angle side. Just as I said, I'm going to repeat it because it's that important. Don't list all 3 angles and the side. Then we've got triangle TMI. That is way too much. Congruent to triangle OMG and triangle. Where's the food? Where's the food? We all like food, right? Where is the food? All right. Did you? I saw that too. All right, here we go. This one's long. But it should not be complicated if you can remember anything that we've ever done with perpendicular since the very beginning of the day of proofs. We've always done the same step next. But now because we're throwing it on triangles, you're going to try to get creative and explore. Don't. If you see a perpendicular, stick with it. What are you going to do first to this proof to make sure that you get your point on your quiz and your test? What is this missing? Rachel? Statement and reason. If you can get statement, reason, and get it numbered, you get a point for setting it up properly. The setup is important. From these 2 givens, just the first 2, those 2 given information should automatically give you the next 3 steps that you need in the proof. Use those 2 givens, do your next 3 steps. I'm giving you 2 minutes till 3:12 to come up with 3 steps. Go back and look at old stuff, get help from me, get help from somebody. I'll walk around. If you stop me, I'll stop. If you don't, I won't stop unless I think you're on the wrong track.
Do we have to use like all of the givens?
Yes. You think you have a shortcut?
No, I mean like you can, you don't, like, if you just use it on the side.
What would be your angle side?
Like you wouldn't have to use a perpendicular stuff.
Why not? What could you use instead? Show
Like
me.
just use a parallel. Like, and then figure out alternate interior angles. And then this
Okay, so these are,
alternate interior.
and what are these?
Alternate interiors.
Okay, that would be true if those lines were parallel. We don't know that those lines are parallel because they didn't tell us that they were. It could just be drawn out of scale. It could be a trapezoid. So if they don't tell us that these lines are parallel, just by looking at them, you can't say, oh, they look parallel. You would need the double marks on them. Two minutes might not be enough. 3 maybe.
Couldn't you do it that way?
You could sometimes. What do these mean? Parallel. So this pair and this pair and that pair are alternate interior angles, right? Are these parallel? They look parallel, don't they?
Couldn't they be because they're right angles to the parallel line?
Right. So if you wanted to go that way, you would actually be putting in 2 more extra steps instead of shortcutting it, because that doesn't say right angle. It says perpendicular, and then you'd still have to turn these into right angles, and then you'd have to say if a transversal is perpendicular, then it's perpendicular. Like, it would take more steps to go that way because they didn't give you this as a given. If they would have just given you 2 pairs, that would have been super easy and fast. But because they didn't, you have to use the perpendicular. So keep... Oh wait, here's that question that you asked me before. Can you call that angle C? No, BCA. So keep that pair of angles. But you can't use the other pair. You're going to have to work with right angles in these 2 steps. Need an eraser? Ready, Will? How's it going? Peek at somebody else to see if you 2 are thinking the same. We're not ready to prove this, by the way. We're going to need way more than 7 steps, so stop at 6. What?
I give up.
Quarter.
Okay. So I'm probably that lost by a lot now.
What is that?
I didn't read that.
What is it?
all close.
What does the definition of perpendicular say in your paper?
Look on my angle so it would be right.
Is a right angle, yeah.
I was
Nope, we gotta use perpendicular. Have to. Absolutely have to use perpendicular. They wouldn't give it to you if you didn't need it.
like the last time.
First 2 are fine, that one's not. What do you know about? This says if 2 angles are right angles, then what's true about them? Find that in your cheat sheet somewhere.
Both of these into one.
Nope, you do it separate because you're talking about 2 totally different pairs of perpendicular lines.
And then we actually say that they're 90 degrees.
Nope. What can you say about angle B and angle D if they're both right angles? Any luck? Why are we not doing this on your notes? Just like the lines?
I wasn't sure if this is on
Oh yeah, cheat sheet you can't, but notes you can. Yep. Now what are you going to do? What are you going to say about those 2? Yeah. I'm going to slow us down here. Otherwise, I feel like I might be stopping at maybe every other desk.
Yeah.
And rather than 24 of you using 1 of me, let's do it this way. So what I tried to say, and I tried to hint you towards, and I highlighted and I put in red, you got to listen to me. That means that we went 5 minutes. We're loading our photos. If they give you perpendicular, you absolutely have to use perpendicular. They're not giving it to you to try to throw you off. If there was a shortcut to the proof, we would let you use the shortcut. We, meaning the book company and I and the tests and the other geometry teachers that set these up. If they're telling you that it's perpendicular, you're going to have to use perpendicular. They're telling you that you have parallel, you're going to have to use parallel. I asked you to please take these 2 perpendicular statements and turn them into if-then statements. So find it on your cheat sheet. It's got to be, what, number 3? Definition. If two segments are perpendicular, I'm going to check with Mary first. Mary Rocha, if two segments are perpendicular, then what's true? What does it make? You can find it on your cheat sheet, or do you have your cheat sheet? They make a right angle. So let's trace them. Segment BC, if you trace segment BC and segment BA, what right angle do they make, Mary? Angle B. So we're going to go with angle B is a right angle. Some of you called it angle ABC. That's okay. You can shortcut that, though. And this is where I dare you to go back through any notes and homework and anything that you can find that we didn't turn something perpendicular into a right angle. That's the only option. If it says midpoint, we have to use definition of midpoint. Bisect, we have to use bisect. If you go back and look from day one, when we weren't doing proofs, we were just doing statement, then reason, you had to turn every perpendicular statement into a reason. And that's why I kind of reiterate, and I say, those of you who have gotten proofs, I say it every year. As soon as you get it, and you got it, and then the next month is easy. Those of you that are not repeating and finding that pattern and using what you've learned in the past, if two segments are perpendicular, then they make a right angle. If you haven't caught on to that yet, you've got till Wednesday to catch on to that. I'm not changing anything. We're not making anything up. If you have two perpendicular segments, you're going to use definition of perpendicular. And because you have a whole nother pair in step number 2, you have a whole nother pair of perpendicular lines, we're now going to say if those two are perpendicular, then they make a right angle. And if you trace it, it's angle D is a right angle. Why are these two separate steps? Because you have two different pairs of perpendicular lines, segments. Definition of perpendicular. We've got another pair of perpendicular, which makes another right angle. And you know, and I know, in our minds, that if they're right angles, they've got to be the same size. Does the proof know yet that they're the same size? No. You have to then carry on, continue on that track, and say angle B is now congruent to angle D. Why have we always said if you have more than one right angle that they are congruent? What allows you to say that? 3 people know? 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. If two angles are right angles, then they are congruent. Kaylin, what do you know? Right angle congruence theorem. All right angles are congruent. So we just used 6 steps of a proof. 3 givens and 3 dealing with perpendicular, and come back. And we only have 1 pair of congruent sides after all that, or not even sides, angles. We only have 1 pair of congruent angles. We still need 2 more parts. So in our 2 more parts, we now go and take care of our next given. Segment BC is parallel to segment AD. Only 1 pair of sides is parallel. This is not drawn to scale, or if it is, because those are right angles, you would have to prove a whole bunch of other stuff. Only this pair is parallel, which means only these angles are alternate interior. You can't use the other pair because we didn't prove that those were parallel. They only gave us 1 set. Careful on your naming. Don't call that angle C. It's angle BCA is congruent to angle CDA by alternate interior angles. BCA to CDA, the order doesn't matter of those because we're not talking about triangles yet, but you do have to have the C and the A in the middle. Now we're getting somewhere. Now we've got 2 angles. I don't have the C in the middle? Oh. Well, I said C in the middle. Doesn't that count? Thanks. Angle DCA. We've got two angles. We're getting somewhere. Now we should know we're either going to have angle side angle or angle angle side. Go find that side. Where is it? Look at it. I'm going to draw a pencil on this one. You should be able to find that side. Something is congruent. When you're ready, number 27. When you're ready, can you find a side, a pair of sides that have got to be congruent? It is. Segment AC is congruent to segment AC. Why is it congruent, number 18?
Reflexive property.
Reflexive property. Oops. Okay, we're not done. We need the final proof, which are the two triangles. Somebody read them for me. What's triangle? The first one is triangle CDA. We need a reason. Raise your right hand if you absolutely positively know the reason. Left hand if you think you might know. Both hands down if you are clueless and need an RTI pass tomorrow. I should have right hand up if you know it. Left hand, don't know it. Hands down, still thinking, not sure. Gonna need help before Wednesday. Where's my righties? Who hasn't talked to me yet today? Abby, you haven't said much. What do you think? Say it again. She says angle, angle, side. I'll get that in a second. Angle, angle, side. Do we agree with her? All right. Power clap for Abby. 1, 2, 3. Here's your assignment. Little bit long, a titch long, but it's your only assignment of the week that you actually have to take home. And you're going to want to do it to prepare for Wednesday's test. Tomorrow you'll have the whole hour to review as soon as that daily quiz is done and graded. So you'll have 40 minutes to do a review in class. Hold on, listen up for one more second. You do not want to be doing this assignment tomorrow when you should be doing a review. Okay, because your review time tomorrow is to be able to ask me questions. So, to your best ability, if you have to do it in RTI, you should be able to do this in a half an hour. All right. Don't forget your toys. Don't forget to study.